Welcome back to Geek Channel 8, GC8 for short. My name is Eric.
I'm Will.
Today we are going to be continuing our exploration of dinosaurs on film with the 2015 film Jurassic World. Hard to believe that was a decade ago from the time that we are recording this podcast, but yes, Jurassic World from 2015. I am part of a gaming group at the local public library. I trade off dungeon mastering with someone else. And it was my turn to dungeon master. And the problem was everybody's new. They're new to the game.
Yeah,
And so we're playing 5th edition. We're also playing the 5th edition 2024-2025 rules,
yeah.
which is new to all of us. They're playing what was formerly the main introductory adventure, Dragon of Icespire Peak. And in Dragon of Icespire Peak, they were in Neverwinter Woods. And there are two encounters in Neverwinter Woods. One is pretty good. The other is sort of like, aside from the dragon
Mm.
of the title, is the next biggest big bad in the whole thing.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Half the party couldn't make it. So
Uh,
2 out of the 4 players couldn't make it. So I had 2 first level characters. There is no way. So I had to whip up something to fill that stopgap. So I made a little adventure that mostly dealt with beasts rather than monsters,
yeah, yeah.
although I threw in a couple of orcs for fun. Suitable for first level players, it was suitable for newbies, and it could be standalone or it could slot into Dragon of Icespire Peak if you've played that before.
Oh, it's sweet.
So I have put it up on Dungeon Masters Guild as a PDF for 99 cents. You know, I'm not looking to make a lot of money off it. I figure there are other dungeon masters who probably have the same problem, or people new to the game who just want something that the first level characters, they're not going to have a total party kill like in their first adventure. So yeah, you can look it up. It's called The Hunt for White Tusk, and it's about the hunt for a white boar. It's a medieval style hunt, and it's a contest between the PCs and NPCs who can get the prize boar. There's some more plot twists than just that.
Love this. You mean you could have just been like, all right, you're fighting some orc, go. That is totally not what you did. Or like, all right, you guys are walking through the woods. Wolves attack behind. And sometimes that's what you gotta do because you don't get any time to figure this out ahead of time. But you didn't do that. Also, let's face it, Eric, you're always a little extra. So
Well, I mean, I think that if you can advance the story, it's always a good thing. So there are antagonists that they will meet in this little side quest that will hint at later things in the adventure.
right
I
on.
did this once before. There's another encounter that's part of the actual module, Dragon of Icespire Peak. It was another situation where they were underpowered compared to what was there. DMs are used to this. Like in it, I think the monsters were ochre jellies, and you can easily swap that out for a gray ooze, which is less intimidating. But also, they were supposed to have an encounter with orcs leaving the place, and I knew that they wouldn't be able to survive that, probably, especially hurt from the battle they were just in. So instead, what I had was I had the 2 guys that hired them were dead when they came out, and there was an orc encampment they had to sneak past, but they saw the logos and the banners and stuff like that of the orc tribe, which will come into play later on. And now they already don't like this orc tribe. So it serves
Yes.
the story.
Sets a hook.
Yeah. So my thing is like, don't look at these things as a problem. Oh no, I got too few players to handle what I had planned out. Or the opposite can be true too. Too many players, too powerful for the thing. Look at it as an opportunity to advance the story. Yeah. I don't like how modern Dungeons and Dragons is always balanced to the characters. That's not the
Mm.
way life is. Like if you go out and pick a fight with someone who's much tougher than you're going to get your ass kicked. And D&D should reflect that. There should be situations where it's like instead of attacking or killing this thing, we got to escape from this thing, or we have to sneak past this thing, or we have to negotiate with this thing, because we will not survive a battle with this thing.
Yeah.
That's lost in modern D&D where it's like everything is scaled like a video game. It's like in the low encounter areas, you encounter the low encounter monster. In the high encounter area, you encounter the high encounter monster. I either want to try to mix it up at some point. It's officially a Dungeons and Dragons club, but I'm thinking, could we get away with doing a different system? Or even if we couldn't get away with doing a different system, I have pre-made modules from previous editions that I think are amazing, like Dark Sun, which has been basically written
Whoa, whoa,
out of the D&D
whoa,
canon.
whoa. Wait a second. Wait.
What?
No.
What?
You can't do that. You can't.
Planescape, another one.
Maybe Planescape. You cannot do no. Dark Sun's like there's some radioactive stuff in there, buddy. That is like
I don't know. I've got it. I haven't read it. I haven't played it. I just remember
mm,
that there was preserver magic and defiler magic and things like that. And I'm like, that is an interesting quandary for
no, but
characters to have
that
to.
those things are interesting, especially in light of our current environmental circumstances. No, it's the slavery. Yeah, that's going to be a whole thing. Now, that's why they do not talk about it anymore. They do not use it. There's just so much there that is like
But in a primitive world, isn't that like almost a foregone conclusion that that exists? We talked about it when we were talking about Primal. And like, in my opinion, one of the best modules ever was Secret of Slaver Stockade by Tom Moldvay, one of the
yeah.
greatest people to write for Dungeons and Dragons. But that whole Slaver series, the A modules, A1 through 4,
Mhm.
I like it better than Against the Giants. No one's saying that slavers are good. They're the villains, right?
Right. And I agree. I told 100%. I'm like, okay, let me do it this way. Short of fighting like fantasy Nazis, it's like, well, let's just fight fantasy slavers. That's the best thing ever. Old school, way old school, old book, Guardians of the Flame series, and it is like the one of the early isekai, except it's entirely a Western novel, right? And what do they do? Yeah, it's D&D players who get transported to the game world. Except it was always just a ruse to get them there, so that and once they're there, they're like, wow, this place is messed up. We're stuck here. We are going to make it better. And oh, yeah, these people, slavers, they got to go, man. They have to go. I mean, we're a D&D party. We kill a lot of people because that's what we do. But like, we're going to kill those people. They have both money and they're evil. So, I mean, it's way more complicated than that. Great series. The thing is that what modern 5e does is like, I just don't want to talk about it.
One of the problems with a lot of role playing games and the fantasy genre is I'm looking at it right now, particularly with Dungeons and Dragons, is it doesn't want to tackle anything. And I'm like,
Yep.
part of the whole reason for science fiction or fantasy is that it is a testing ground for ideas. You can go in and you can be like, what if society was like this? Okay. Or what if society was like that? How are you going to react to that? And I really feel like Dungeons and Dragons, it's going to have a very short shelf life. It's like very popular right now. People are going to be on to the next thing if it doesn't have something you can sink your teeth into. Like, there's only so many times you can play the bland, generic rescue somebody from the monster thing.
Yeah.
And even that might get watered down because obviously now we can't, it's got to be, I don't even know. Like, if you take that sort of political correctness far enough, can you even have monsters? Can you even kill monsters?
Well, as you know, orcs are not monsters anymore, which I'm like totally cool with that. There's some people who are like, we just need to have these one creatures. Some of these creatures just have to be inherently evil and we should be able to just kill them. I'm like, well, you always got demons. Okay. Just go with the demons and just say, yeah, those are the ones. The entire not taking a stance, it's 100% about market share. You can't say, well, slavery bad when a big portion of your market is people who fly Confederate flags. I mean, you're gonna lose those people. And they'll be like, well, slavery could be good. Yeah. So
So I think that this is where science fiction is great. And that brings us into today's thing because
yeah,
it's like, what if it's dinosaurs? Can you kill them? Or not, especially if you're the one that made the dinosaur to begin with. Can you kill it? Do you have the right to kill it because you made it?
Are they property? Are they, do they have an inherent right to live?
So today we are talking about Jurassic World from 2015. This is the third sequel, the fourth movie in the Jurassic Park series, but the first in what was to be a new trilogy, the Jurassic World trilogy. Like I said, it out in 2015. So let me give you a little background to what was going on in the year leading up to this. On June 18th of 2014, scientists announced the discovery of Mercuriceratops gemini, a horned dinosaur with unique wing-like frills in the journal Naturwissenschaften.
Gesundheit.
July 17th of 2014, Malaysia Airlines flight MH17 was shot down over eastern Ukraine during its flight from Amsterdam to Kuala Lumpur, killing all 298 people on board. Investigations concluded it was brought down by a Russian-made Buk missile fired from territory held by pro-Russian separatists. The incident significantly escalated tensions between Russia and Western nations and had major geopolitical ramifications. August 27th, 2014, the discovery of Dreadnoughtus shrani, one of the most complete titanosaur fossils ever found, was announced in scientific reports. September 22nd, 2014, the US and coalition forces began airstrikes in Syria targeting ISIS, marking a significant expansion of military operations in the Middle East. This was the first time the United States carried out airstrikes in Syria as part of its campaign against the Islamic State, a group that had rapidly seized territory in Syria and Iraq. October 8th of 2014, researchers dated cave art on Sulawesi, Indonesia to at least 40,000 years ago, making it some of the oldest known in the world.
Nice. Very cool.
November 12th, 2014, ESA's Rosetta mission successfully landed a Philae probe on Comet 67P Churyumov-Simenko, a historic feat in space exploration. And there goes the shark meter. Because December 11th, 2014, a newly discovered species of prehistoric shark, Pseudocorax kindlemani, was described from Cretaceous era fossils found in Switzerland, shedding light on shark diversity during the time of the dinosaurs.
Pseudocorax, huh? I wonder what a real corax is like.
January 20th, 2015, the ninja lantern shark.
What?
The ninja lantern shark, scientific name Etmopteris benchley, was officially described in the Journal of the Ocean Science Foundation.
Okay, I just want to point out, if you're trying to be a ninja, you shouldn't carry a lantern. That's just basic.
But it's a ninja and a shark.
And well, I mean, I guess at that point, you can do what the heck it wants. Hello?
Yeah. I mean, can you imagine ordinary sharks terrifying enough? Now they're ninja sharks. February 3rd, 2015, paleontologists announced the discovery of Regulaceratops peterhusi, a new species of horned dinosaur nicknamed Hellboy for its
Ah!
spiky skull and difficult conditions of its excavation in Alberta, Canada.
Oh, that's awesome.
March 3rd, 2015, archaeologists announced the discovery of a 2,000-year-old Roman tomb in Pompeii, offering new insights into ancient funerary practices.
Wow. It just keeps going. That's like, I mean, horrible tragedy from thousands of years ago, but also like that site just keeps on producing more
Yep.
and more and more.
Yeah. Volcanoes. All right. April 8th, 2015, scientists unveil a 125 million year old fossil of Changiraptor yangi, a four-winged dinosaur discovered in China, offering new insights into the evolution of flight in feathered dinosaurs.
Hey, what?
Four-winged dinosaur.
Okay. Okay. Wow. Okay.
This just goes to show that this science of studying dinosaurs is still very much in like transition. Like stuff is being discovered every day, right? May 20th, 2015, the United States and Cuba agreed to reopen embassies in Havana and Washington, D.C., marking a major step in the formal restoration of diplomatic relations after decades of Cold War tension.
Hmm, I didn't last it.
So that takes us up to the summer of 2015 when this movie came out. So let's talk a little bit about how this movie came to be because this was a long time after the last Jurassic Park film. The journey to bring this film to life actually began way back in 2001, right after Jurassic Park 3. Steven Spielberg was working with producers Kathleen Kennedy and Frank Marshall to create the next chapter in the dinosaur saga. But they weren't sure what it was going to be. So early on, they explored all kinds of concepts: dinosaurs migrating to the mainland, genetically engineered dinosaur human hybrids. Spielberg liked the idea of hybrid dinos escaping a lab and attacking a city because it stayed true to the genetic manipulation themes that made the franchise compelling. But despite all these ideas, the script kept hitting dead ends.
Hmm.
Joe Johnston, who directed Jurassic Park 3, was involved in conversations, but eventually he bowed out of directing. Meanwhile, the team mulled over stepping away from the island setting and revisiting the escaped pteranodons from the last
Yeah.
film, though those angles were dropped later. Early drafts kept coming back to themes of dinosaur migration, ecological disaster, and expeditions involving the familiar characters that fans love from the first few films. The first screenwriter officially hired was William Monahan in 2003. His draft notably shifted the setting from the traditional jungle scenes. Richard Attenborough was going to reprise his role as John Hammond, and Sam Neill was also interested in being involved. Jack Horner, who you may remember from when we talked about him before, he's the paleontologist advisor to the series, which fans really appreciate his input on these things. He returned to focus especially on velociraptors and some evolutionary ideas tying dinosaurs and humans closely together. For whatever reason, that didn't work out, and John Sayles, of all people, was brought in. I don't know if you remember John Sayles, but he was like dark indie filmmaker of the 90s, like Lone Star, Passion Fish. These are the movies I remember by him. I'm
Wow.
hoping I'm getting the titles right. But he took over, and his scripts veered darker. Not surprisingly, dark indie guy. So corporate villains. He had hybrids that blended human and canine DNA to create living weapons.
Wow.
Some of the stuff makes its way into the franchise,
Yeah.
even though he didn't take it all the way. Spielberg insisted that the film include a human raptor trainer, a concept that carried forward, but Sayles' tone was a big departure from earlier entries, and I think they finally said, "No, that's too dark for the Jurassic Park series." Alex Proyas, kind of action director guy, was brought in briefly in 2005. His main thing was marine reptile scenes, and he came up with the whole sort of feeding scene.
Yeah. I mean, pretty good.
Yeah, but it stalled under him, under the weight of complex drafts and studio pressure. Now we're up to 2007, and they just hit setback after setback with this. First, there's a Writers Guild strike in 2007. In 2008, Michael Crichton dies. Also in 2008, Richard Attenborough has a stroke, leaving him unable to speak. He's basically out at that point. So all these stall stuff through the mid
Mm.
2000s. Joe Johnston was toying with the idea of rebooting the franchise entirely, just start over,
Oh, wow.
but scheduling conflicts derailed that plan. It gets all the way up to about 2011 when screenwriter Mark Protasevich pitched story treatments. Studio rejected it. And then in 2012, they went with Rick Jaffa and Amanda Silver. Their script emphasized a working dinosaur theme park. So Jurassic Park for real, back up and running, and a team of rap handlers, which laid the foundation for what actually became Jurassic World. Brad Bird, the director of The Incredibles, recommended to them for directing Colin Trevorrow because he had done an indie hit, Safety Not Guaranteed. And Spielberg was sort of sold. He thought that Trevorrow's grasp of the franchise's childlike sense of wonder was what the franchise needed. So in 2013, Trevorrow and Derek Connolly rewrote the script with Spielberg's involvement. Their version balanced out the sci-fi stuff with some humor, some emotional depth, and weaved in themes about environmental neglect, technological overload, and the pitfalls of over commercialization. The Indominus Rex, the film's genetically modified villain, evolved from an early concept called Malosaurus, a terrifying blend of T Rex, velociraptor, cuttlefish, and other species. Now, the whole chameleon like camouflage thing, which we'll talk about, was inspired actually by Michael Crichton's original novel, The Lost World.
Oh, really?
The second novel that he wrote, but his novel The Lost World, which they didn't actually use as the script for the movie The Lost World, which we talked about was more like the black and white silent film The Lost World than it was Crichton's novel. But in that novel, he had Carnotaurus. Remember from Turok?
Yeah.
Yeah, he had Carnotaurus blending into its environment using a chameleon-like effect, and so they brought that back. In May 2013, they scouted Kauai, Hawaii, as a stand-in for Isla Nublar. Sam Neill said that it was a big reboot, but Trevorrow preferred to see it as a fresh sci-fi adventure taking place 22 years after the original events.
Hmm.
The film's title was changed from Jurassic Park 4 to Jurassic World. And this is kind of art and life mixing because the theory was that a marketing move, you know, unleashing chaos in a park called Jurassic Park after the disaster of the first film would be a PR nightmare. So the filmmakers could not have been unaware, in my opinion, of the parallels between the movie plot and relaunching the franchise after a disaster, right? Like, I think a little of that comes out in here where they talk about, audiences, they want bigger teeth, and stuff like that.
Right.
So Universal originally aimed for a mid 2014 release, but they pushed it back to 2015 due to rewrites and shoots. This actually ended up being a blessing in disguise because those delays allowed the production team time to build elaborate practical sets, which let them dial back on the reliance of CGI,
Mhm.
for which a lot of fans and critics appreciated. So, like, they were able to actually build the sets rather than have green screen everything. Bryce Dallas Howard was among the first cast signed on in late 2013. Chris Pratt was brought in 2014, and remember, this he was relatively unknown. This predates his breakout with Guardians of the Galaxy. The supporting cast was pretty diverse. Vincent D'Onofrio played InGen's head of security. Irfan Khan, a big Bollywood star, was brought in. Omar Sy, whose role was written specifically for him. Jake Johnson and BD Wong is the only person that came back.
Mhm.
He was Dr. Henry Wu. They were wisely skeptical about bringing back, the Sam Neill characters or any of the previous characters without a good reason. They're like, if there's not a good story reason, we're not going to do it. And there was a
Also,
good,
like these people have every reason to never step foot anywhere near these things again.
yeah. But BD Wong's character, Henry Wu, made sense. So he was
Yeah.
written in. Also, we get Judy Greer, who I love, Katie McGrath, Lauren Lapkus, Andy Buckley. That's sort of the ensemble. The filming began 4 weeks in Oahu, including petting zoo scenes where Bryce Dallas Howard's son appeared as an extra. So I just want to point out that is now the fourth generation of Howards because Rance Howard, and then you got his sons, Clint and Ron, and then Ron's daughter now, Bryce Dallas, and now Bryce Dallas's kid. All of these people were child actors, right?
I
So,
mean, if it works, it works. Family business, right? No one has any illusions about this in Hollywood. We all know we're like, yeah, that's kind of how it works.
yeah. I remember I saw Ron Howard talking one time when he was promoting Splash, I think it was, he was talking about how, oh, it's like he was the, he felt like the kid that grew up, seeing the Yankees playing and got to like be a pitcher himself. And I'm like, oh, bull crap. Like you were on movie sets on the Andy Griffith Show since the time you were like a little kid. You like now props to him, he didn't leave it at that. He like was studying what the directors were doing, and
Yeah.
like even at the time, he might have still been on Happy Days at the time he directed his first film. I'm not sure, but just wanted to point that out because it was interesting that there was another young Howard in the movies. They went to Kauai for 33 days of jungle exterior shooting, and then Louisiana, they found this abandoned Six Flags New Orleans theme
Wow.
park, which they used like to be their main park. Rebuilt it. A little fun fact here: you can see a Margaritaville restaurant in there, and Jimmy Buffett's actually in this in a little cameo. The pteranodon attack was inspired by the dark, chaotic triptychs of Hieronymus Bosch,
Wow.
so creating sort of a layered, visual, complex nightmare. Interestingly, more people die from the pteranodon attacks in the film than from the Indominus Rex big bad itself. And one of the people that dies in these attacks is Katie McGrath, who played Zara, and she performed all her wire harness and underwater stunts. Her death scene might seem familiar to you. Remember when we watched Jaws, and I think it was Christine or whatever in the very beginning getting like,
Yes.
yeah, yep.
Oh my God.
She gets back and forth and then finally gets eaten by the giant underwater monster.
And they made sure the kids were watching. Okay, sorry. I'm like,
It was a definite homage to Jaws there. NASA's Michaud Assembly Facility served as the home for the interior sets, like the Visitor Center labs, Raptor enclosure, and paleontologist Jack Horner designed the exhibits for that to be authentic. Several scenes were cut from Jurassic World to keep the pacing tight and the storytelling focused, including control moments showing the Indominus Rex using its camouflage ability. There was a scene that you just gotta see to believe where Claire and Owen covered themselves in dinosaur feces to mask their scent.
ah,
This scene, like it's on YouTube. You can look it up. My favorite comment is like, there should be a whole film class on how this scene made it all the way to the filming stage. They trimmed some intense CGI heavy dinosaur attack sequences to maintain the film's balance between practical effects and visual spectacle. It finally premiered on May 29, 2015 in Paris and was released widely on June 12th. It played in IMAX and 3D formats with a limited IMAX release in August ahead of its home video debut in October. Critics praised its thrilling action, impressive visual effects, and a respectful nostalgia. It raked in $1.6 billion worldwide, breaking multiple box office records, including being the first film ever to reach $1 billion and boasting the largest June opening weekend with $208 million in North America. Real quick, some of the dinosaurs we're going to see: Apatosaurus, created with animatronic section filmed on Kauai. Ankylosaurus.
yes.
Trevorrow loved the Ankylosaurus. The Dilophosaurus. The Dimorphodons, another flying dinosaur, along with the Pteranodons. The Gallimimus herd. And Indominus Rex, which they made up for this. It is a made up dinosaur. Even within the plot, it's made up by combining DNA from different animals. The Mosasaurus, 72 feet long. It's seen feeding 3 times, devouring a great white shark. The Pteranodon, and we won't say what it eats last because that's a major spoiler. The Pteranodons, again, of course, are back. The Stegosaurus and Triceratops are back. The T-Rex, of course, is back. At one point where she crashes through a Spinosaurus skeleton in this, which is symbolic reversal of the controversial moment from Jurassic Park 3. And then, of course, the Velociraptors are the main good guy dinosaurs, maybe,
I mean,
depending on
this
your.
touches on something that we're going to get into about because it's like they're a significant protagonist. We'll put it that way. There's some real changes in this for the franchise.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Okay, this is a very cheesy film. I watched it last night after having spent the day making pizza. Okay, so I'm going to lean into this pretty heavy. We're going to do a full-on cheese pizza. This is from the bottom up. I'm going to give you a lot of details because I made pizza from scratch, basically.
Nice.
For your dough, let's start with that. You're going to want 1 full tablespoon of dry yeast. Seems like a lot. Kind of is, except that your dough is you're using it the same day and it only takes about 20 minutes or something like that for it to be ready. It's really short. Makes for a pretty crispy crust because that's what I like. And so I make pizza towards that. We are going to use a 1/4 cup of neutral oil. I prefer grapeseed oil. It is higher heat and I think a better taste. I feel like I can get a good quality grapeseed oil. I am not qualified for olive oil tasting testing knowledge, so I just skip ahead. I do grapeseed oil. I love it. So those are the first two ingredients. You are going to use 5 cups of flour, 2 cups of water. Mix it, set it aside. We're going to move on to sauce.
Now, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. I have to ask you something here. Do you do a yeast starter? Because when I make it from scratch, I like put the yeast in the water, warm water with some sugar and let it start to yeastify,
Oh
start.
yeah, no, that would be like, I mean, okay,
Or is
look.
this me overdoing everything again?
No,
Like,
no, no. What you're doing is correct, and the amount that you're using of yeast is probably a fraction of what I just because that's like I'm not using a tablespoon of dry yeast. That's a lot, and I'm over. It's a lot because we're doing everything fast, quick, easy. I mix everything together. You could put it in the water. You could add sugar. You could baby it, but instead we just use a lot. We mix it and we set it aside someplace warm, usually on top of the oven you're going to bake in. You know. Of course, you crank up whatever oven you're going to bake in. You just crank it to the maximum. Right? That's a key point. Um, but yeah, no, you're not overdoing it. I just stumbled across this method, which totally vibes with my ADHD. I didn't plan ahead. So, and again, and it's not. This is not a fluffy crust. This is a crispy crust. If you hold on to this dough and you do, unless you really refrigerate it, it's gonna smell like beer, and not in a way that most people really enjoy. So, because there's so much yeast in it. So that's why I'm like, yeah, you just make it the same day you use it, mostly. Yeah, you were right on point on that one because it's like that's it. This is low prep. So usually I do a really heavy garlic red sauce, and really basically it's a one note sauce just with garlic. But for this, we're going to go lean into the cheesiness. Okay, I made it up as I was going along, and I actually wrote it down because I really like the results. But anyway, let me lay that on you. This is still really garlicky. This is a white sauce, all right?
okay.
So we're gonna have 1.5 cups of peeled garlic cloves. I recommend you buy them already peeled because I'm too lazy for that shit, but they will be even better if you do them yourself. 1 cup of neutral oil. You might want to narrow down some of this stuff because this is for a batch. But on the other hand, when you're done, you're gonna have an amazing sauce. So we'll just go ahead. So a cup of neutral oil. You take those two things, you use an immersion blender or something like that, and you just blend them together. So now you have garlic oil that is delicious. The next step is a little bit over the top, but still delicious. You melt 4 sticks of butter and you pour that into your garlic oil. The oil is there to keep the butter from setting up hard, and it does a good job of that. You blend that in there, and then at the end, you take minimum one, I prefer 2 cups of Asiago cheese. Asiago, I will tell you, if you want a nice dry cheese with a lot of flavor, it is, in my opinion, superior for the price point to a Parmesan. Same price that you're spending on a Parmesan, you will get a better, more flavorful Asiago.
I agree.
Yeah, you blend all that down. When they're done, you got to have something to eat this on because otherwise you'll just eat with a spoon, which I did. I ate at least a spoonful of this because it was delicious. So your dough should be ready by now. Now, I don't know how to throw dough. I do not know how to throw pizza dough. You could do. I've seen people have thrown this dough and it seems to work okay for them, though it's not been worked. So it's not the gluten hasn't been developed. You can, some of my young people who are pizza apprentices, they'll be like, can I knead this dough? I'm like, yeah, go ahead, but you don't need to. And I'm usually doing this in bulk with like everybody from kids who've never made a pizza to people who like have worked in business. I'm just like, look, I rolled this out and it seemed to work great. So we roll it out. Now, in my case, we put a lump of dough, you smush it. People who know what they're doing usually work it out by hand. You bring rollers, I roll them out, gets it nice and thin, and I toss it onto a screen. Feta cheese, okay? Some people don't like feta on a pizza. I freaking love it. It's salty. It gives that like zing to it. So I'm going to say after you've laid out your dough, however you decide to do it, I put it on a screen, lay it on your screen, you dress it with your sauce. You're going to add a delicious cheese. Base is provolone / mozzarella. You add your extras, which will be the feta cheese. If you buy a block of feta cheese and chop it up, so much cheaper than buying the crumbles. So I recommend that. And then we're going to land more Asiago on top because we can.
Sure.
Right. At this point, I like a little pepper. What's nice about the pepper is you can land that after it's cooked. When you pull it out, add some pepper. Boom. You have a crispy, cheesy, delicious snack. It's super good. Make sure that you let the bottom brown. This is an oil-heavy dough. I like that crispiness that helps. It helps it brown in the oven. Also, fat beef flavor, You can do different oils if you like. I've considered just putting butter in there, but I haven't done that yet. So but I've done it with beef tallow that was amazing. Just takes more work. But anyway, this is my cheesy pizza because this is honestly a cheesy movie. I know it's a crutch. I'm using it, but also I just made pizza and I made that pizza last night. So it's fair. I'm gonna give myself credit for that. So that was my rather elaborate go to this is go to the lobby. That was rather elaborate because we did this, man. It was awesome.
Yeah, the whole idea of the lobby segment is what did you eat or what would you eat while watching this? And you did eat this, so it counts. I
Oops.
always try to figure out what the best pairing is, and the best pairing is what you ended up pairing it with. So let's get into the film itself because people are probably like enough about the pizza.
Right.
It's not about control.
Stand down. It's a relationship based on respect. These animals are thinking, I gotta eat. I gotta hunt. You gotta be able to relate to at least one of those things.
Every time we've unveiled a new attraction, attendance has spiked.
That was awesome.
Corporate felt genetic modification would up the wow factor.
They're dinosaurs. Wow enough.
She was designed to be bigger than the T-Rex.
What happened to the sibling?
She ate it. We have an asset out of containment. What is that?
Her tracking implant. She clawed it out.
How would it know to do that?
She remembered where they put it in.
Oh, God.
She's killing for sport.
You got 20,000 people. You got no more boats. You don't have enough guns.
If we do this my way.
got eyes on target?
Light it up!
Something's wrong. They're communicating.
We're talking about an animal here.
A highly intelligent animal.
Jurassic World opens on Isla Nublar years after the original Jurassic Park disaster. It's now operated by Masrani Global Corporation, which acquired InGen's assets. In a great bit of casting, they cast Irfan Khan, who is sadly no longer with us. He passed away, I think, in 2020.
Oh, wow.
He was at one time the biggest Indian movie star. We've got two brothers, Zach and Gray Mitchell. And when we first see one of them there, I got to throw this in there because I've mentioned this before. One's looking at a dinosaur reel on a Viewmaster,
Oh my
which
gosh,
I love because I loved the dinosaur reel. I also mentioned this during Dracula, which was another one of my favorites. I just got to get a Viewmaster again because they were the coolest thing. I could spend so much time just looking at those.
Honestly, 100%. We're talking about the different ways we used to look at art or pictures or whatever before we had phones to stare at. So there's like keychains where you looked in the keychain and there was a picture inside. You remember those?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, sometimes they were naughty pictures, but like between that or the Viewmasters, I'm like, that seems like something that's perfect to bring back. You could 3D print them for whatever, all I know, but like we have all these images we want to share or whatever, but it would be a permanent item that was also exhibited your art, and that would be amazing.
Yep. All right. So their aunt, Claire Deering, is the operations manager, and their parents are like getting divorced. So they're during these proceedings, they send them to Aunt Claire, who's supposed to be watching after them. Claire is too busy developing the new Jurassic Park, now Jurassic World, and so she assigns her assistant Zara to look after the kids. They, of course, sneak away to explore the park on their own.
Yeah.
Then we have Owen Grady. This is Chris Pratt's character. He's a Navy veteran and ethologist. He trains the Velociraptor squad, basically Blue, Charlie, Delta, and Echo, B, C, D, E.
Yeah.
The A is not there because he's the Alpha A, right? He studies their intelligence. We also have Vic Hoskins. This is the Vincent D'Onofrio character. He's the head of InGen Security, and he believes the Raptors can be used as weapons.
Justin Hammer all over again.
Yeah. Owen and his assistant Barry strongly oppose this idea. Claire and the park owner Simon Masrani inspect the park's newest dinosaur, the Indominus Rex, a genetically engineered hybrid created by Dr. Henry Wu. So it's part T-Rex, part cuttlefish, so it can it can conceal itself, and part other classified things.
Yeah, no, they're like, yeah, we're not telling you what we made this out of. Don't worry though, it's fine.
Hint, it's a velociraptor. We know that.
Yeah, but they literally they don't tell anybody what it's made out of. So okay, so as we all know, for most plots to work, secrets have to be kept so bad things can happen later.
Well, we just gave away one of those secrets, and we're going to give away a lot. So this is going to be a spoiler heavy episode, but the movie's over 10 years old now. So Masrani asked Owen to evaluate the Indominus's enclosure, and Owen warns that the dinosaur is dangerous due to its lack of socialization. Like, he's all about the socialization, of course. So predictably, the Indominus Rex escapes after camouflaging and masking its heat signature, tricking them to go in the enclosure. It kills two workers. One of them's the fat guy, which I knew, don't be fat in a Jurassic Park movie because you will get eaten. Like, every fat guy gets eaten for sure in Jurassic Park.
You know what? I mean, the only way you could be is if you were like Jack Black. Then you would survive. But everybody else is gonna die if you're fat. Yeah, it's like it is 100%. They're like, yeah, you're the slowest guy here, so you're screwed.
Um, so so yeah, it kills two workers. Owen survives and he urges Masrani to destroy it, but Masrani sends in a non-lethal unit to recapture it. And of course, the Indominus kills all of them, and it escapes its enclosure. And so, like, Claire basically orders the evacuation of the northern sector of the park. Now, keep in mind, it tricks them into like letting it free.
Right.
So it's smart too.
Yeah, and it's like there's so many problems here. It's like I love.
I think my big thing was like dinosaurs were bad enough. Now they're making super dinosaurs, you know? Like,
Right? Oh,
and of course, the invisible fences are already malfunctioning at this point.
right. No, she brings that up earlier. That's like, this is not acceptable. It's like, well, you know what's happening. Okay, here's the other thing. She's supposed to be somebody who's a protagonist, but like even early on, it's like, well, we got to kill this dinosaur and shut down the park. And she's like, it'll never reopen. It's like your priorities are screwed up because you know earlier you were all like talking about there was like a worker guy who was like, I don't know, he's supposed to be like a modern hipster or whatever, who was into the old park, and he was wearing an old Jurassic Park t-shirt, and she's like, don't you think it's in poor taste, people die. He's like, yeah, I know people died, that was a long time ago, but like, oh, also your nephews are out there, but you're like, no, can't shut down the park because it would never reopen. I'm like, are you supposed to be evil? No, it turns out you're supposed to be good, but what the hell, man?
Meanwhile, the kids, Zach and Gray, enter a restricted zone in a tour vehicle. It's a sphere, it's a gyrosphere. You know, it's this big plexiglass globe that you can drive.
Oh yeah, and it's made out of glass steel that's super, which basically unbreakable,
Yeah.
right?
Until the Indominus Rex attacks and destroys their vehicle. They do escape it. Eventually they find the ruins of the original Jurassic Park Visitor Center.
Man, they love going back to that. They love going back to that. It's like, nah, man, we built it. We're just going back. We're putting that in the movie too.
I think what was kind of cool about this is apparently those are the original vehicles from the that like were left in a barn for 20 some years. So that's like they didn't have to like make them look old. They really were
Really
old.
were. Wow.
But there are plot holes and there are problems throughout the film, but none of them really bother me that much except this one. You got two kids who are totally inexperienced. I guess they make some excuse that maybe they have some experience with this, but they're gonna revive this Jeep that has been sitting there for 20 years and like do auto work on it with no tools and no workshop. They're just gonna like get it running again. Like my mechanic can't even fix my car in a day when something goes wrong with it, let alone two kids in the middle of the jungle fixing a.
Okay, I know this is super geeky, but I'm like, they took a battery, at least they showed this. They took a fresh battery out of a wrecked 4x4 vehicle, right? So
Yeah.
there's one of those little, Polaris or whatever vehicles. I'm like, does that even go on 12 volt? It's not a 6. I'm not sure, but I was questioning that. And then I'm like, wow, all the fluids and everything would be really messed up. There would be like,
The tires would be flat, like
tires would be,
the
flat.
rubber of the tires would be probably long dry rotted or something, or wet rotted if it's jungle. I guess they'd just be like, there's so many problems with this that, yeah. Not to mention, like I said, they don't even have tools, right? Like,
There have to be kids, and I want to make the kids be cool. And they kind of really struggled with this. I don't even blame the kid actors. I think they did it
the
fine.
kids are always a problem with Jurassic Park movies. Always a problem. Like in the very first one, it kind of works, but you still had like the girl hacker who like,
Right.
a computer hacker is like, I know this is a Unix system. And I'm like, that is not a Unix system. The kids are always a problem because they want to give them more to do. And it just ends up not making sense.
What was the one? The one where the kid ended up parachuting in and he
Yeah,
survived. And, okay, so yeah, no, that kid, I really liked him.
I think that was 3, right? That was Jurassic Park
I think that
3.
was 3.
Yeah.
But like they had to work the gymnastics into with the one with the girl. It was like, oh God, it's just like up, down, back and forth. So
That was Jurassic Park 2, I think. The girl
man, you got a better memory for this.
daughter of
Yeah, Ian.
Ian Malcolm's daughter.
I just go back and forth on this, man. It's just so like so. Anyway, I don't blame the kid actors. I think they did fine, but like the whole that was just goofy as all get out.
Well, they fix it and they return to the resort in the Jeep.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Claire and Owen are out searching for them. They narrowly escape the wrecks themselves.
Okay, so the cheese here, there's supposed to be some chemistry between these two, which I did
Yep.
not see from the beginning. And then, this bothered me so much because you remember in the beginning who our female protagonist was from the very first movie. She was awesome. She was able. She was a scientist. This is a corporate chick who's wearing high heels, and when it's pointed out, even then, does she take off the high heels or do something like knock the heels off or something? Which no, they keep her in them, and instead, she rolls up her sleeve and ties her shirt. And even in, and even in the movie, he's like, "What's that supposed to mean?" She's like, "Means I'm ready to go." And it's like, and then they just move on. I'm like, so you just guys barely even tried here. You're like, no, we're keeping her on the high heels. It's hot, so we're gonna do that. I'm like, oh my god, this is so terrible.
I think it would be hilarious if Ellie, which was Laura Dern's character, met Claire. That would be a hilarious.
Oh yeah, and Claire continues on to other movie. Oh my god.
We'll get to that. We're just dealing one movie at a time here. Okay, so they escape the Indominus Rex. Masrani tries to hunt it by helicopter, and he's like barely doesn't even have his pilot's license or barely has his pilot's license. I forget what it is, and so everybody's like freaking out when he's now. I thought this was kind of clever because Ian Malcolm, who is the doom-saying chaos theory guy played by Jeff Goldblum, he's not in this movie.
Not really.
But they found a clever way to basically say the same thing coming from a totally different character and for a totally different reason. Instead of him being like, you can't control it. You have Masrani flying the helicopter and people are freaking out. He's an Indian guy and presumably has some Eastern philosophy, religion type views. He says at one point, one of my favorite lines, he's like, the key to a happy life is to accept that you are never actually in control. Which is the perfect line for a Jurassic Park film because like you aren't in control. You think you're in control of these things, but you are never in control.
His character's kind of interesting. He's like this tech billionaire or whatever. He's totally arrogant, but he wants the people in the park to have a good time. He wants the animals to be happy, but he's arrogant enough to send in a non-kill team when this thing is already definitely dangerous. It's like tricked its way out. After that, he's arrogant enough to fly the helicopter himself. We don't need anybody else. So they have this mixture of like, I kind of like this guy. Also, his arrogance is leading to all this terrible stuff.
Let me say, maybe this is a 10 years ago, 2015 era Elon Musk.
Yeah.
Maybe, the Indominus Rex breaks into the aviary.
Yes.
Just what we need. So pteranodons and dimorphodons like come out in a huge flock. They're crashing the helicopter. Everybody aboard dies. The flying reptiles end up attacking the resort. This is where most of the people die. Like I was trying to count the number of kills. I was trying to come up with an accurate body count for this. And this is where I just gave up. I've seen estimates of the body count in this movie to be from 19 to 25. I counted it to be at least 25 because this scene just sends things over the top.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so for me, this is where I'm like, okay, I know it's, quote, a monster movie, but like, okay, so these things are free now. And they immediately go to attack people. They're not like, oh, wow, I'm fleeing. No, they go to attack people. And it's like, I feel like this serves the monster movie plot more than it does like any animal sort of thing, and that's fine by me. But like, yeah, it's totally like, wow, this is actually kind of a fun scene if you like that. Everybody's being attacked, all sorts of stuff happens. Multiple different kinds of flying dinosaurs, mind you. So not just one. Yes, we got different kinds.
Yeah. And I think this is where I should mention the cameos because I didn't before. There are like a bunch of cameos in this film to watch for. One is the paleontologist Jack Horner appeared as a raptor paddock worker. Brad Bird, the director of Incredibles, who was the one that recommended this director, he is the voice of the park's monorail announcer. Jimmy Fallon appears as himself in the park safety video.
That was pretty good.
Apparently, a nod to his Universal Studios tram tour cameo. I did not know that. But this scene where the raptors and the Dimorphodons go to town on the main street here, this is where you see Jimmy Buffett, who makes a quick appearance running through the park holding margaritas near the Margaritaville
Oh my
restaurant.
God, it's funny because I'm like, that dude is not letting go of his drinks. And I noticed that. I didn't recognize.
Another person who dies during this Pteranodon and Dimorphodon attack is Zara, who was in charge of watching the kids. Now, the most severe dinosaur attacks are people who like really, you're like, oh, that guy's gonna get it. Usually like Vic, and stuff like that. Zara, it's just outrageous what they put her through. She's attacked by one monster and then another and thrown back and forth, and then finally like eaten by the Mosasaurus. And
yeah, she gets dropped. They swoop down. They grab her up in the air, but she falls. Another one grabs her by a leg. She's freaking and then another one. And then but she drops. And it's like, oh no. Okay, so she drops in the ocean. I'm like, well, okay. Quote. I literally am like, oh well, she's safe now. Not. And of course, when she's in the ocean, they dive down, which is not on. Okay, so like there's the diving birds that will dive into the ocean to fish. So like they dive down and attack her underwater. So she's attacked by them, and then the Mosasaurus gets her. So I was like, man, wow.
Yeah, she was like killed by at least 3 different dinosaurs. But I'm wondering why her, because okay, I guess it's good because it's the randomness of monster movies. It's the way it should be. Like it's indiscriminate killing, but it almost seems like the audience is supposed to want her to die. And I'm wondering,
Right.
I'm like, because I'm thinking Claire is really the one responsible for all this stuff, not her. She's just doing her job.
Just trying to, like I'm being pressed into this job as being a nanny, and I'm just trying to do what I can. And like we were given no reason to dislike this woman. Honestly, I don't. I'm like I wasn't even sure why the kids were running away from her. She wasn't like restricting them, just kids being kids or whatever. But it's like wow.
I'm guessing this was the fate that was originally supposed to be meant for Bryce Dallas Howard's character, but during all the rewrites, at some point they're like, no, we need to keep her as the romantic lead, and she's going to stay in heels for the whole film, and we'll just have this other corporate person like get like eaten instead. I don't know.
Okay, well look, it's a monster movie. There will be gratuitous deaths, but usually when they are over the top like this, you have a reason. Somebody has been set up as the heel,
Yeah.
and they caused a lot of people to die by accident or they were just a jerk, whatever. This time it's sort of like, wow, you were just like a woman in the way, man.
Yeah, but we do get Claire, Owen, Zach, and Gray back together again at this point.
Yeah. Oh, and Claire gets to do like a pose in her heels because she rescues Owen from one of the flying ones. I'm like, all right. It was totally unearned. Like it felt like the girl power part in the Avengers movie.
Now that Simon Mizrahi is dead, Vic Hoskins takes control.
Yeah.
He orders the raptors to be used to track the Indominus, which is kinda cool, I guess. I don't know, but this guy's gonna die. Like at some point, like he's gonna get that death that we just saw. Anyway, Owen reluctantly agrees, leads the mission. The raptors confront the Indominus and begin communicating with it. And that's when Owen realizes that it's got raptor DNA.
Yeah.
And the problem is it thinks it's the alpha of the pack. And so
do they.
yeah, and so do they. So there's this like battle for control of the raptors. The Indominus escapes. The Raptors kill most of the soldiers.
Yep.
Charlie's killed. And so Hoskin evacuates Dr. Wu and dinosaur embryos to preserve his research.
Yeah, those guys are super shady. They're up to no good. Dr. Wu, I think, has evolved or devolved. The tech billionaire comes down to yell at him like, "You put raptor DNA into that? You did this?" He's like, "You're the one who told me to do it. You wanted the bigger teeth and everything." And this like the guy's like shutting you down. It's like, "What? You're acting like we're doing some kind of mad science down here." I'm like, "You're totally doing mad science down here. That's great." Yeah.
That's one of the things I like about this, and maybe it's because the influence of John Sayles when he was writing on the script, but there's a lot of stuff like that where it's just like at one point when they escape, it's like called a code 19 when they're out of containment.
Yeah.
And Simon Mizrahi is just like, it was an eventuality, it's like, oh yeah. It's not even like if they escape, it's like when they escape.
It's very much like the nuclear power bros is like, new nuclear power will not go wrong. It's totally safe. And even if it did, not that many people actually died from the nuclear releases that happened in the past. So I mean, yeah, I'm like, yes, it's gonna happen. And one of the most realistic thing about this movie, which gave me no pause whatsoever, is that yes, they absolutely went back and built another park and opened it to the public. No matter how many people died, they were gonna do that because there is money to be made. That's the most realistic thing here. I'm like, oh yeah, they would totally do that. Absolutely. And people would totally go.
Yeah.
And the fact that people died before would be like, no, that's a long time ago, whatever.
Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. This is a spoiler alert. Let's move to the end of this. I don't want to give too many spoilers, but there's going to be spoilers. Basically, InGen shows up because Hoskin calls them in, and, more mercs get killed. Basically, it's a good excuse for, like, it becomes aliens.
Yes.
Finally, we get to our Dino Battle of the Week.
Yes.
The T-Rex versus the I-Rex, with a special guest by Blue, the Raptor, and then this eventually becomes a pylon because the winner, do you remember the winner? The winner is not the T-Rex or the I-Rex or even Blue the Raptor. It's the Mosasaurus in an upset.
Okay, Blue has his bond with Owen, is not going to let the I-Rex just eat him. It turns out, fights the I-Rex with the rest of the pack. We have gone from this is a monster movie to where it's a monster movie in the sense of like Godzilla or something like that. We have good guy monsters, bad guy monsters, very much wrestling mania. We have all our guns, none of that stuff works. So we're going to cut loose T-Rex so T-Rex can get on the action. So we have Claire leading the T-Rex to the fight against the I-Rex so that they'll fight, which seems totally unfair because I'm like, isn't the I-Rex, isn't that just like an upgraded one? Well, of course, hey, so now we got two, but so Blue's back in the action because she got knocked out before. Now that she jumps on, and humans are standing by watching the action. There is the part where Owen tries to, he takes some pot shots, but like, even though I believe he's using a real rifle, totally ineffective, absolutely ineffective. Of course, you have to have that for these dinosaur movies to work. The guns just can't work. Otherwise, you don't have a movie. But like, this is really feeling like now we are in a position where it's like, you're the humans are almost like the little girls who call, because there's always a young person or a little girl who has a special arrangement with the giant monsters in the Gaiju movies, and it's like, yes, please, I'm gonna call to help us fight the other monster. And like, I mean, I guess it's a natural progression. I'm there for it, but it's super like WrestleMania because it's like, oh, out of nowhere, here comes somebody else.
Yeah. This is my least favorite of the Jurassic Park films we've watched so far. And it has plot holes and things that really annoy me, particularly having to do with the kids. There are other problems with it, but it's still a thumbs up for me because, first of all, the dinosaurs are still cool as hell. I don't think they needed to go to the extent of making super dinosaurs, but okay, they went there. Still, we have now crossed into kaiju territory. We are no longer in the dinosaurs. We are now in giant monster movie territory with these things. And I am there for it. It is not as good, not even in the same ballpark as like the first Jurassic Park film. However, it's still worth the watch for me. Yeah.
When I saw the trailers for this, what I loved was him on the same side with the Raptors. I love that he's real clear that this is a negotiation and a relationship. Did not love Chris Pratt in this. I expected to love him in this, but he hadn't really hit his stride yet. He's much better as Star Lord. And I was like, when did this come out? I wasn't really sure. I'm like, I thought maybe I'm just having feelings against him because how he is politically now. And like, is that why I'm not liking it? Like, no, it just was not, it wasn't great. I'm like, oh, I would totally watch this cartoon. I would think that would be much better. And like, again, it's like, in which case it would be more Pokemon style because like, yeah, these are my monster friends and they're going against these monsters. But whatever. The best part for me was the relationship with the Raptors and humans, Blue and him. That was the cool part. The rest of it, just yeah. Okay, no, I take that back. I do like the evolution into like we're building them, because that's what we would freaking do. I mean, like I'm already thinking like, what about electric eels? Can we add some of that DNA? So yeah, I like that part too. I can't give it a thumbs up. It was really pretty bad.
So I gotta throw out another compliment here, since we're in B movie territory anyway. Sexy Bryce Dallas Howard. I feel like that is something we have not had yet in the Jurassic Park films. Like Ellie's cool, but she's more like your cool cousin or something like that. Finally, we get some eye candy. With that said, if you have a differing opinion, you can let us know by writing to us at GC8 Podcast. That's letter G, letter C, number 8 podcast at gmail.com. You can join us on Facebook. You can like and subscribe on YouTube. You can find us on every major podcasting platform: Spotify, Pandora, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, you name it. We're out there. But we are far from done with the Jurassic universe. We will be coming back to it next time. But until next time, this is Eric.
And this is Will.
Signing off. There was like a 1 in 100% chance of Asmodeus showing up.